Welcome back to Her Career Unplugged. I am your host, Wimla Paidi. With me, I have Joanne with me, my co-host today. And today we have an incredible guest joining us. It's Lynne Ghelfi. Lynne is a marketing director in the automotive industry, a John Maxwell certified coach, an author in progress, writing a book on positive leadership. We'll get some tidbits on that in today's episode. With over 14 years leading teams in one of the most fast-paced industry out there, knows what it takes to grow people and profits. She believes leadership isn't about just a title, it's a mindset. Today, we are driving into leadership skills, what they really look like in the trenches, how to develop them, and why they matter more than ever. Lynne, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here with you ladies.
Yes, same here. Looking for some exciting conversations that will be led by our amazing Joanne today. Joanne, over to you.
Amazing, Joanne. She's leading me up. So, no pressure as always. But yes, thank you so much, Lynne, for joining us. And I love that you're on this journey to be an author. And I think that is something that takes a lot, of belief in yourself. And I love it because one day I will be an author. I swear, one day. But next to all the other hobbies we have. So I would love to get into that.
I didn't know that, Joanne. All right.
Yes.
So we are going to push for it.
We are going to push
exactly.
I'm putting it out in the universe. Now everybody can hold me accountable that's listening. So it will be there. Now, that being said, let's go and talk about you, not me, because you're more important right now. Is you've been in the automotive industry for 14 years. And I think that is a very male-centric industry, if I'm not wrong here. So what drew you to the industry? When did you, what drew you to it, and what made you realize you were a leader as well?
Well, first, let me say, yes, it is a male-dominated industry. Only 18 of dealership employees are women, although women make up 84% of the car buying experiences. So they influence 84% of car buyers. So I actually got into the car business during, one of those winter seasons of my life where everything was really tough. And my husband at the time was out, and we were kind of on the verge of losing everything. It was a really bad time. And I was talking to some friends, my husband, my dad. And my dad said, you know what, you have to go out and get a job. Like, you're going to have to go figure out what you want to do that's going to make you the money. Because I had lots of hobbies. Joanne, you and I would get along. Like, I could do the hobbies. I had worked, but never to the extent when you get in the car business. The car business is like, you go from being a stay-at-home mom of 3 to working 90 hours a week. And so it's a big jump. But I had a friend that said, go interview. You don't know anything about cars, but you know people, you can build connections. And so that's what I did. I took a bet on myself and I went in. I said, hey, I've never sold cars before, but I'm really hardworking. I'm determined. I have to do this. I have to make this work for my family. I got the job. I started in sales in 2011. And sold cars for a year. At the end of the year, I had sold over 250 cars. I was top 3 in sales and the only female on the sales floor at the time. So it was a great first year, right? I had accomplished what I set out to accomplish. And with that, I was promoted. And at that point, I stepped into a leadership role.
Wonderful.
So,
I like that story. And congratulations.
Let me tell you. The story sounds like happy, but there are a lot of tears in there. There's a lot of tears.
Selling, I would say, like, selling is a nightmare to me because I feel that's a lot of rejection as well in the role, right?
Yeah.
You learn that. You learn that with every no, you're one step closer to a yes, and you also learn that there is going to be a ton of rejection. You just have to do the best you can, and I think because I connect so well with people on like a personal level that I really truly wanted to help you. I really wanted to get you into a car that you would love to drive, that would get you back and forth to work, keep your kids safe and all of that. So it was perfect for me because I truly love selling cars. I still love everything about selling cars.
Awesome. I think that's just one day, I guess I'll have to go through some form of that therapy to get over my rejection fear. So I love that. So, I mean, with that was your year, you got promoted. But beyond that, you held many roles. You were a sales
Yeah.
manager, internet director, BDC director, marketing director. How did each one of those roles like shape your leadership style?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the shaping of my leadership started way before that. When you're growing up, you take all of the things that your parents teach you, teachers teach you, even some friends that have that leadership knack at a young age, and you start leading yourself. And it starts with being kind, speaking your mind, taking risk, betting on yourself, right? Having some confidence. So in sales, that really amped up my ability to lead myself. And then came a team. So my first team was a group of young women. It was the BDC department. I had 13 women that were probably all under the age of 30. And so that was a whole new leadership role for me, because for a lot of the individuals, it was their first job. And so it wasn't just leading them within the job, it was leading them in life, right? Teaching them things about responsibility, not letting your team down, being on time, practicing what you say you're going to do, not just saying it, but doing it. And also leading yourself better, creating better habits. And so I really developed a ton as a person and as a leader in that role. And then it just started stacking. Every leader I came into contact with, I took something from. Either I love what you're doing, or, ooh, I never want to do that. I don't like how that made me feel. I never want to make someone else feel that way.
Love it. And having the early career team would have been you might have been in a good mentorship role too, to kind of help them understand the job. That's the first thing. And the second thing is just teaching them how the corporate world works, right? Like if it's your first job, they'll be looking up to you. So yeah, that's a great experience. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I'm still close to several of them. One of them, she started with me when she was 19 as an agent. She now is a marketing director and runs her own BDC department at a huge dealership up north and in Atlanta area. And then another one of my team members works within my organization and runs an internet department. So we've had great success come out of a small group of young ladies that are just super driven and doing great.
Amazing. So let's pivot, because we were talking about leadership, your beginning.
Yeah.
And your leadership mindset. And I think this all leads up to the book that your soon to be authorship, which was No Talent Required. And I really like that title a lot. I like that title because it's bold, but why that title?
Okay. So thank you, by the way. I like that title a lot too. At first, I was like, I don't want to start a book about positivity with a no. And then I thought, okay, well, it truly is. Everyone thinks that you can learn some talent skills or leadership skills, but that it takes talent. But it really doesn't. You can learn to be a good leader and not have a talent skill base. You just have to be intentional. So the book is No Talent Required, the 12 leadership practices that drive culture, trust, and productivity. So when we're talking about this, it's the basics, right? Attitude, gratitude, courage, empathy, adaptability, direct communication skills, community outreach. There are so many parts of being a leader, right? But not everyone does them consistently. And when you don't do them consistently, you'll never be the leader that you have within, right? You have to be a consistent leader every single day to be a great leader. And when you practice empathy with every team member, when you practice accountability with everyone, including yourself, when you hold yourself to the highest standard and show that, all of that shows and is amplified within your culture. And then your culture starts to shift, because it truly does start with you. When you slow down and take the time to show your gratitude, the others will show their gratitude. Right? When you pay it to your teammates will pay it to each other, but then also to the customer base. And it will show in their performance, which leads to that productivity component. Because happy customers, it's proven through stats, through all the data and research, that happy, healthy work environments drive higher productivity. And so with that higher productivity, you see things like higher gross margins, net margins, more sales, faster turnaround, less mistakes, less burnout, less PTO for illnesses and health events caused by stress and anxiety. So this book truly is for everyone, because you are a leader even if you don't think you are, because you always have to be leading yourself. It starts within, and the attitude that you hold. And once you have that mindset that I'm leading myself, I'm leading a small team, I'm leading my family, then things start to shift and you can become more focused on the intentionality of everyday behavior. That takes no talent. It takes no talent to be a kind person and show gratitude, right? Or to have a good attitude. Those are things that you can just choose. I'm going to be good, have a good attitude today or not.
100%. Yeah, I'm not going to get cynical. 100%.
Okay.
It takes no talent to be a good person. That is true. And I love that, because also the point being is, I want to double click on this, is that you do not need the title of manager, boss to be a leader. You can be a leader, like you said, to yourself. You can also influence others as just someone part of the team. So anybody can be a leader, and you should mentally think that way, instead of, I guess, getting philosophical for everybody here, just thinking you're just a pawn, or a drop in the ocean. Like, you can influence things around you. And I think that's wonderful that you said that. So you've talked about like 12 daily practices, and no one knows about these 12 daily practices except they live in my head right now. So maybe, what are some of them, and which one has the biggest impact on you?
So the chapters are broken up into the 12 daily practices, and they're what I had, just kind of went into a little bit, which is like attitude, gratitude, courage, empathy, empowerment. And so when you break them down, each chapter has doables. So you'll have a story, a real life story about either a leader that I've come in contact with or worked with, or someone that I've interviewed for the book that has just a great story. And then from the story, you'll have doables and lessons. And let's talk about the attitude chapter. So in attitude, I have something called face the mirror. And that's when you have a mirror, you take a minute and you look in that mirror and you focus on what's important, right? And then you adjust what needs to be adjusted. You create the new narrative, and then you enforce it. So it's like, okay, I'm having a really bad moment, but that's all it is. So I'm going to shift my mindset from I'm the victim to how can I solve this problem? And then you do it. And so every single chapter has something that you can take out and teach yourself, teach your team, teach others to just realign your actions with your intentionality to get back on track. Because every day isn't going to be perfect, right? You're going to walk by someone at work. You're not going to notice that person seems really down and maybe they're going through a really hard time. But then the next time you walk by that person, maybe you will realize, wait, something's off about how they're looking right now or their work or something. And then you stop and you engage and you show some empathy. So every day isn't going to be perfect, but it gives you the doables to practice to become more consistent.
I love that a lot, because I do think about that as my own leadership journey in itself. I'll be honest, I was not the best boss in the very beginning, but I learned from experiences how to be better. And I'm not saying I'm the best boss. We'll leave that to the side there. But I think I'm far better than who I was 10 years ago. And I think that is...
Yeah, we all are. We get better.
We learn and we grow.
Yeah.
And I like it. It's a journey, and you kind of learn to work on those muscles and become better. You're not going to be perfect immediately, and don't expect that. So I love that.
Yeah. And like the idea of looking into the mirror to see, just reinforcing your intentions, see what you look like, and readjusting, right? That's a great idea, to always be intentional, know what your inner compass is, kind of like direct yourself into that if you see someone else in the mirror. So love that idea. Great one, Lynne.
Thanks. Yeah, I think, Joanne, you said that you weren't a great leader 10 years ago. And so, yeah, and we've all grown so much as a leader. And when you put in the time to actually work on yourself as a leader, then you can elevate the rest of the team. But it takes that intentionality throughout the years. And I know that I've used that word a lot, but it is critical, because growing yourself is the only way to grow your team and to grow those around you. And you have to put in the work.
Yes, you have to put in the work. And that is very important. So yes, I love it. So before we ended up hitting record on this podcast, you were understanding Vimla and Mai's personality styles, and you use something called the Maxwell DISC method. So for someone who's unfamiliar with that, maybe could you explain the Maxwell DISC method and then how understanding your personality style helps you be a better leader?
Absolutely. So Maxwell DISC is one of my favorite classes to teach because it just makes sense to everyone. So several people have taken the DISC profile assessments where it gives you a personality style, such as D is dominant, the I is an influencer, like that person that loves to tell stories and is more people centric than process centric. And then the S is that slow and steady wins the race, that person that is the best friend, the secret keeper, the people pleaser. And then that high C, which that C is compliant. They love a good spreadsheet. They're very data focused. They're very organized. And when you can understand someone's personality style and how they best work and communicate, then you can really bridge the gap between the communication with them and connect with them. So when I get on a call with someone or am sitting in front of someone, I pull some cues away, right? So Velma sent this amazing email out that was very detailed, and she has details that I would have definitely missed. So immediately I knew that she had some C, probably leads with a C, because in order to function, she really wants things in order, and she likes things to factually make sense. And so when I communicate with her, I'm going to keep that in mind and try and give her fact over feeling and make sure that I answer all of her questions. So the sooner that you can understand your team's personality styles, the better you can connect, and the team can just flourish. They can work better together. They can accomplish more. Their communication is clearer, and then there's more connection between them. So it's one of my favorite classes to do. And I love doing it for teams that want to grow together because they see the shift after I explain it for 2 minutes. It's like, it just clicks.
Yeah, totally. I think before we started recording too, we both were like, that makes sense. And we both agreed with you on our styles. It definitely works.
Yeah.
I want to give one more question, and then I'm going to hand you over to rapid fire. So the last question is honestly a story that you told us. So I want to give that is you talked about courage in leadership, and you share a story about your mom in the book, but without giving away too much. That is the tricky part there, right? What did that experience teach you about leading through difficult times?
Yeah. So one of my favorite chapters in the book is courage because it's about my mom. And when my dad, I was young, I was probably in middle school, or I think I was in around 10th grade. We lost everything, and my mom had to step up as the leader of the household because my dad felt like the decisions he was making just weren't the right decisions. He didn't trust himself anymore. And so my mom stepped in. She went from being a housewife in the 80s, right? So she was truly a housewife. She stayed home, she made dinner, you'd come home, she'd be watching soap operas and folding laundry. And then she stepped in and went back to work. When she went back to work, she went into a very male-dominated industry. My dad was in the car business also. He was selling trucks. She started delivering them for him. And in those moments, that's where I truly learned you didn't need a position. You didn't need the title, right? Because she stepped up as the leader of our household, and she stepped up as the leader in her organization. She ran a group of people that helped deliver trucks. And then as my dad's confidence came back, he slowly slid back into the head of the household role, and she quietly went back to being mom. And it just happened so effortlessly for her. And I saw her show grace, courage, leadership like no one's business, right? She had direct communication with her team. And she also supported my dad in a way that humbled him, but never made him feel like it was his fault, right? They were things that happened, and that's what happens in business when you're taking courageous steps and making decisions. And they worked as a team. So it's truly one of my favorite chapters. You know, my mom's now 84. And when I read her the chapter, she's like, who's that about? that's about you, Mom. I was like, what do you mean, who's that about? And she's like, that doesn't sound like me. I wasn't a leader. And I was like, you were. And so we talked about it, and she's like, huh, I didn't realize you saw me that way. And so it was kind of cool.
I love it. And it is amazing what your mom did. And it was a great example. And it also shows, like, that you could be a housewife. It doesn't mean you're always a housewife either. Like, you have these abilities. You can be a leader no matter what role you are in. Well, I am going to hand you over to Vimla for our rapid fire. Take it away.
Thank you, Joanne. All right, the next one is we are going to unplug and do a rapid fire. So Lynn, it's going to be a few questions. We can do like 1-2 word answers, or if you feel like you have something valuable to share, you can like go into a few sentences as well. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
The rapid fire? All right, let's get unplugged. The first one, worst leadership advice you have ever received?
To not listen as much as I do to my teammates.
Okay, good one.
Yeah.
Biggest career risk you have ever taken?
I think writing this book is my biggest career risk. I know Joanne said she'd love to write a book, and I've always wanted to write a book. So this is huge for me, and it's a huge risk, and I'm putting myself out there, but I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, we are too. I can't wait for the release of the book and get a copy for myself.
Thanks.
So, yeah, good luck. Good luck with that. The next one, a leader you admire and why? I think, yeah, go ahead. I'm just curious.
I admire John Maxwell, and I know that sounds he's way up above me, right? And I don't know him on a personal level, but I do know what he's created. And in meeting him, he lives every single word he teaches. I'm going to tell a real quick story, and it is more than 2 sentences. But last year I had an encounter where I was able to ask him a question on stage. And I introduced myself, asked him the question, sat back down. Well, then later in the day, now keep in mind, he's 81. I think he's like 81. Later in the day, he's walking through the crowd, and he always says, walk slowly through the crowd and pay attention to who you see. It's his line, walk slowly through the crowd. He paid attention when he was walking through 2,000 people and said, Lynn, and I turned around.
Wow.
John Maxwell had remembered my name, and then he didn't say, how are you? He didn't say, how'd I do this morning? He said, did you have fun this morning with me? And he took my hand and he said, I had so much fun. Did you? And I just realized you are 100% who you say you are. And in that moment, he elevated so high in that moment.
That's an amazing story. You're right. Yeah, that is amazing to remember in a crowd and kind of like walk through whatever he's preaching. Thanks for sharing that. The next question. I think this would be worthwhile for our listeners too. So you're stuck in an elevator with a new hire who's terrified of their first day. What do you say to them in the elevator if you have few seconds?
Well, the first thing I would say is I'm here whatever you need, right? I'm here to serve you. So if you need anything today, you know where my office is and you're welcome. And the first day is always the hardest day. And tomorrow you're going to be just a same old teammate, right? You're going to be part of the crew. So get through today, and I'm here if you need me.
Amazing. First days are always, most of the times they are terrified. Get through the day and you'll be part of crew. That's a good one.
Yeah.
What's your superpower as a leader?
I'm a really good listener, I would say. I think that listening and truly connecting with people and empathizing.
Yeah. Being a listener is one of the strengths. That's a great skill to have. If you could put one sentence on a billboard for every woman in automotive to see, what would it say?
We need you.
Good one. All right, that kind of wraps up our rapid fire. If you want to kind of like give one sentence on what our listeners can do after this episode, please feel free to give like your piece of advice before we wrap it up.
I would say go out there and be kind. The world needs us all to be kind to each other right now, and be extremely intentional with everything that you do. Stop being busy and start being focused.
That's an amazing one. Yeah, that's an amazing one. Thank you so much, Lynn. Thank you so much for being here and giving us like a quick preview of your book. as well. Just looking forward. No talent required. What a great title. We'll be looking forward to the release and get our own copy once it's out there. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
to our listeners, please subscribe to our channel. We are on YouTube and every other platform like Spotify and Apple, and we're also on LinkedIn. So definitely like us. And Lynn, if they want to follow you, which would be like the best way?
I would say LinkedIn is a great way to follow me. And then they can visit my website, which is soleilleadership.com, and they can subscribe into the newsletter there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening. And stay authentic, stay bold, and stay unplugged.
I love it.